Well, the NHL free agency begins in 4 days at the time of recording this video, and noticeably, Steven Stamkos does not have an extension with the Tampa Bay Lightning. In fact, apart from trading for Ryan McDonagh again and re-signing a couple of AHL prospects, the Lightning have been remarkably quiet up to this point. So I've got 2 videos that I'm trying to record right now, edit and push them out tomorrow. This being the first one, we're going to talk more about Steven Stamkos, talk about the case for keeping him, the case for letting him walk or getting rid of him. The second one will be addressing the Tampa Bay Lightning salary cap as we approach the NHL draft and free agency beginning on July 1st. But let's focus on this video right here and right now. Let's focus on Steven Stamkos, something that I have done quite a bit of throughout this season. If you have been watching any of my YouTube videos or my Twitch streams, you know that this has been a constant source of, let's say, aggravation on my mind throughout this season. And some people just don't get it. Hey, I understand that. You don't understand why I would be so dead set on keeping Steven Stamkos, why I am wearing his jersey. You don't understand a ton of that. So let's start with, as quickly as I can, a recap of Steven Stamkos' career, his 16 years with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's be real, it's not actually going to be quick. But as Sam Reich from Dropout TV would say, the only way to begin is by beginning. So let's begin. Steven Stamkos, drafted number 1 overall by the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 2008 NHL draft. His rookie season was fairly unremarkable as number 1 overall picks go. 23 goals, 23 assists for 46 points in 79 games puts him just above that half a point per game player. But again, he's a rookie. But also considering that 3 of the previous 4 first overall picks were Patrick Kane, Sidney Crosby, and Alex Ovechkin, 2 of which got over 100 points in their rookie season, let's just say expectations were higher. And the very next season, Steven Stamkos does not disappoint. He goes out and puts up 51 goals, 44 assists for 95 points, and actually splits the Rocket Richard with Sidney Crosby at 51 goals, finishes 1 ahead of Alex Ovechkin as well. And in 2010, the final year of his rookie contract, he puts up another 45 goals, another 91 points overall, makes the All-Star game for the first time in his career. The precedent has been set. Steven Stamkos has the potential to be a superstar in this league, and he's already proven that he can consistently be a point-per-game player for basically as long as he can ever play. The Lightning's general manager at the time is none other than Steve Yzerman. And hey, Tampa fans, remember Steve Yzerman? Remember the Yzer plan? And remember how it actually did kind of work out? Now take that and wonder why it's not happening in Detroit. Different conversation for a different time. Regardless, Steve Yzerman sees the potential in Steven Stamkos, hands him another contract for $7.5 million over the next 5 years. A pretty good payday for somebody who has only been in the league for 3 seasons at this point. Now, to help put that in perspective, during the 2011 season, the salary cap was $64.3 million. Steven Stamkos is making $7.5 million. That equates to roughly 11.5% of a team's total salary cap. Considering the fact that the superstars of today, such as your Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon's, they're all making roughly 14 to 15% of their team's salary cap, getting away with a mere 11% for a young, budding Steven Stamkos. That's a hell of a deal at that point. And along with this new payday and this contract extension, he also gets a letter on his chest. Not this one, not yet at least. That very same season, he is named an alternate captain alongside Martin St. Louis behind the captain Vinny Lecavalier. And in his first season wearing the A on his chest, taking a step up as a leader in this organization, he goes out and he wins the Rocket Richard again, puts up a 60-goal season, finishes 10 ahead of the nearest person. And no, it's not Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin. It's actually Evgeny Malkin that year. Meaning that, once again, if you exclude his rookie season, he has yet to play a full season where he has scored fewer than 45 goals. The man is an animal. And in the 2012 season, the lockout shortened season where they only played 48 games, he put up another 29 goals. And if you do the math, it means he was on pace for basically another 50-goal season at that point. So his rookie season is kind of meh, but his next 4 consecutive seasons are all outstanding. And this is where unfortunately, the story starts to go south a little bit. In the 2013 season, the Lightning unfortunately lose both their captain and their other alternate captain. Vinny Lecavalier is bought out by the team. Marty St. Louis is traded to the New York Rangers, leaving Steven Stamkos to be the obvious choice for promotion to captain. And while that entire Lecavalier, St. Louis, Stamkos, whatever, is a bittersweet experience for the team and for the fans, the actual bitter thing as it pertains to this video is Steven Stamkos gets injured, only plays 37 games in the 2013 season. And you never want to see this. Your superstar, now your captain, who you just gave a giant payday to not 2 years prior, is now injured, and there are starting to be questions about his long-term longevity with this team. Thankfully, in the 2014 season, he comes back, he plays a full season. His overall production dips a little bit, but he still puts up 43 goals during that season, en route to a Stanley Cup loss to the Chicago Blackhawks in the finals, 4-2. I remember where I was. It was heartbreaking. We're not going to talk about it. 2015 season, the Lightning are focused. They are ready to make another deep run. John Cooper has found himself. This Lightning core is starting to find itself. Steven Stamkos, everything goes well for the first 77 games until he unfortunately comes down with thoracic outlet syndrome, a thing that I definitely didn't make up. It's basically a condition that causes pain and numbness right around this area right here, which is pretty important for a professional athlete. So Stamkos goes under the knife, has surgery, looks like he's going to be out for the entirety of the playoffs, but he comes back for Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and what a story it would be for the captain to come back to lead his team to victory over the Penguins for their second straight season, go to the Stanley Cup Finals, and finally hoist the trophy. And that is exactly what didn't happen, because they lost to the Penguins in Game 7. Not all endings are storybook endings, unfortunately. Oh, but there will be one later, just you wait. And that was unfortunately Steven Stamkos' last game on his first real big contract, not his rookie contract when he first entered the league. But in those 326 games over the last 5 years, puts up 193 goals, 137 assists, 333 points in 326 games. So despite the injuries, despite the lockout shortened season, despite everything, you still have your captain being a point per game player. You have to re-sign him, right? And this was the free agent storyline for that 2016 offseason. Where is Steven Stamkos going to go? He is a superstar in this league. The man can get paid wherever he wants to go. One of the biggest suitors out there was potentially the Toronto Maple Leafs, because after all, that's around the area where Steven Stamkos grew up. Plenty of other interests as well, from Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, Vancouver. Boston was on this list somehow. And everybody in the league knew during this offseason that Steven Stamkos could and should get paid. He was just making $7.5 million. It's not crazy to think that with a salary cap of, I believe it was $73 million, that he could have been making 10, 11, maybe $12 million. That one's probably a stretch, but still, he could have been the highest paid player in the league at just over $10.5 million. If he had made $10.5 million in this contract, it would have tied him for the lead for the highest paid player in the league with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. Two players that, mind you, had just won a Stanley Cup not 2 seasons ago. Both got their big paydays. Could you justify paying Steven Stamkos, who had not won a cup yet, more than Toews and Kane? Possibly, yeah, but that's not what happened, because to the surprise of some, Steven Stamkos ends up staying in Tampa Bay for the next 8 seasons. And to the surprise of many, it is for the low, low price of $8.5 million. How the hell did Steve Yzerman talk Steven Stamkos into taking that big of a hometown discount? The world may never know. I think it probably had to do with his full no move clause being a part of this contract, with his captaincy. There's so much that went into it, but the fact remains that that is the last contract that Steven Stamkos signed back in 2016. So let's run through that contract real quick. 2016 season, Stamkos only plays 17 games, torn lateral meniscus, goes under the knife, has surgery, does not come back the rest of the season. Lightning miss the playoffs. Oh boy, this deal isn't looking good already. 2017, plays a full season, but his production drops pretty significantly. For a full season played, his goal total is the lowest that it's been in his entire career. Again, not counting injury seasons, lockout seasons, what have you. 27 goals, 59 assists, 86 points in that full season. They make the playoffs, they go to the Eastern Conference Final and lose to the Washington Capitals in 7 games, where they famously scored 0 goals in games 6 and 7. Yeah, they kind of deserve to lose that series. 2018, plays a full season once again. Goal production goes back up. 45 goals, 53 assists, 98 points during that season, but they famously lose in the first round, and not just lose in the first round, they get swept in the first round by Columbus, and now you're starting to wonder, oh, is it time to blow up this core, and is Steven Stamkos just going to be the lone captain, the lone moneymaker on this team that desperately needs a rebuild? 2019, the COVID year, the bubble playoffs, the entire world is falling apart, and yet we are still playing hockey. It's a technically shortened season. The Lightning only play 70 games. Steven Stamkos only plays 57 of those because he gets injured. He has surgery again to repair a core muscle, and it's looking like he's going to be out for the entirety of the playoffs. Keep in mind, this is the year where everybody thinks that the Lightning are crazy. They didn't change anything. They said, screw it, let's run it back this season and see if we can do it again. And oh, by the way, we're going to do it without our captain in the playoffs. They make their way through Columbus, exercise their demons. They beat Boston, division rival. They handle business with a very tough New York Islanders team, and we still have no sighting of Steven Stamkos as they're heading into the Stanley Cup final to play the Dallas Stars. The series is 1-1 going into Game 3. It's been hard fought on both sides, and there are rumors that Steven Stamkos is going to play in this game. He's out on the ice. He's warming up. He has a massive beard and he has long flowing locks looking like Thor out there on the ice, but he's just not terribly productive. He plays a grand total of 2 minutes and 47 seconds. And oh my gosh, there's Steven Stamkos coming down the boards! In those 2 minutes and 47 seconds that he played during that Stanley Cup final, that Game 3, it's the only time he played during those entire playoffs. One shot, one goal, there's your storybook ending. And I think everybody in the world knew at that point, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Lightning are going to win the cup just because of that. Lo and behold, they do. Captain Steven Stamkos hoists the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career, and it would not be the last. 2020 season, another shortened season because of all the shenanigans that happened in the previous season. Steven Stamkos only plays 38 games of the regular season. He goes on LTIR, but this time plays the entirety of the playoffs, takes them back-to-back, wins the Stanley Cup once again, twice in 2 seasons. Oh, he's got to be feeling good, and he helped lead them the entire way this time around. Why not go for 3? 2021 season, he's injury-free, plays the entire season, 42 goals, all the way to the Stanley Cup final once again, and they lose to the Colorado Avalanche. I guess the three-peat wasn't actually on the table. 2022 season, plays the full season once again, 84 points in 81 games, lose in the first round of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Extremely unfortunate, and now is really when people starting to question if this Lightning team is cut out, if their window has closed, or if it's still just even a glimpse of hope left. Which leads us to last season, roughly this time last season, where before training camp even begins, the media put a microphone in Steven Stamkos' face, and he says that he's disappointed in the lack of contract negotiations, that not even a single conversation has been had at this point, basically leaving fans in this sort of purgatory along the way of, will Steven Stamkos remain? Are they going to get a deal done? And general manager Julien Brisebois comes out and says that no talks will happen, no contract will be signed during the season because he needs to evaluate the talent and the outlook of the team. So we're all just kind of sitting here nervously for 82 games, plus the 5 that they got run over in the playoffs. Yeah, they lost to Florida. I don't know if you knew that, by the way. It was bad. And so for this most recent contract that Steven Stamkos has had, 513 games, 243 goals, 332 assists, 575 points in 513 games. Again, point per game player for his entire career at this point. So that is a quick-ish rundown of Steven Stamkos' career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's look at a couple of accolades first before moving on. In his regular season career, Steven Stamkos has played 1,082 games where he has posted 555 goals, 582 assists for 1,137 points. Again, over a point per game. In his playoff career, he has played 128 games where he has put up 50 goals, 51 assists for 101 points in 128 games. And again, scoring in the playoffs is really freaking hard. He's won the Stanley Cup twice, back-to-back. He's won the Rocket Richard Trophy twice. He won the Marc Messier Award 1 time, and he's been to the All-Star Game 7 times. He also owns basically all of the franchise records for anything that a forward can do in the sport of hockey. His franchise records for most anything in a season: goals, 60. Overtime goals, 6. Power play goals, 24. Game-winning goals, 12. And most games played at 1,082. The Lightning franchise career records that he currently owns: most points at 1,137, most goals at 555, most power play goals at 214, most game-winning goals at 85. And if he does indeed play the season with the Tampa Bay Lightning, he only needs 7 assists to take over number 1 from Marty St. Louis. And by way of NHL history books, he is currently 60th in all-time scoring, goals and assists, and he is currently 30th in all-time goals. Once again, if he plays with the Lightning this season and he scores 23 goals, which is very doable for Steven Stamkos, he will leapfrog up to number 22 on the all-time leading goal scorers list, going ahead of Mark Recchi and doing it in roughly 500 fewer games. So yeah, in a word, Steven Stamkos is doing numbers. But all of those things are indeed just numbers. So let's talk about the case for keeping Steven Stamkos versus the case for letting him walk, for trading away his signing rights, which I don't think they can actually do because of the no move clause, but we'll get there. There's obviously a case for keeping Steven Stamkos here, and I think it was pretty well summarized by that look at his career. Quite frankly, he's the best player in Tampa Bay Lightning franchise history. Period. I know that sports is ultimately a business, and that loyalty to your team and sometimes loyalty to your players, if you're in a position in the front office, doesn't always mean the most to you. Sometimes you have to make those hard decisions in order to say, we want to be competitive now, and we don't think you give us the opportunity to be competitive right now. But still, there's something in me that says you cannot let a guy like Steven Stamkos just walk away because of whatever reason is in your head. Not only is he the best player in Tampa Bay Lightning history, he is so incredibly ingrained in this community, from the charity work that he does, from all the things that happen to have his name on them, from the leadership he provides in the locker room and to the rest of the community, to the fact that he's a family man. He has a child that he has been raising in the city of Tampa, and I can't foresee that that's a move that you want to make willy-nilly because of, I don't know, how much extra money are you actually chasing. I think there's something to be said for the stability of staying in Tampa with a team that you know, a franchise, an organization, a community that you know, where undoubtedly you're going to be praised for the rest of your career. And as I said time and time again throughout this video, Steven Stamkos is a point-per-game player. You need players like that to help push you through the season, especially when they are players that are your leaders. A guy like your captain, of course. As you look back over the course of the last 8 seasons, Steven Stamkos has not been under a point per game for any of those seasons. And over the course of his entire career, he is above 1 point per game. To put it in perspective, there were only 3 Lightning players this season that eclipsed that point per game mark. Steven Stamkos being the lowest of the 3 at 81, Braden Point at 90, and then the freak of nature Nikita Kucherov at 144. I think it's possibly different if Steven Stamkos is your only point per game player. Then you say, well, if we shed that contract, then we can really focus on the rebuild, invest in young talent, get some draft picks back. But that's not the case because you still have this core around. Hedman is producing, Kucherov is producing, Point is producing, Cirelli, Hagel, Paul, they're all producing. Vasilevsky had a down season, but you know what he's capable of. All of that to basically say that as much as people are talking about the Lightning's window being closed, I don't think they see it that way. And if you believe that your window is still open and you believe in this core that you have, you still need your centerpiece around it. And guess what? That's Steven Stamkos. You take him out, I think the entire thing falls apart. Sure, they're still going to be a good team. Sure, they're probably still going to make the playoffs, but that je ne sais quoi is no longer there. You're just missing something from it. Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov are both due for new contracts within the next 2 years. I think you have a much better chance of re-signing them if Steven Stamkos, the captain of this team, the centerpiece of this core, the captain of that power play that has been lethal for as long as that core has been around, if he's there, you got a much better chance of signing Kucherov and Hedman to not ridiculous deals that they are probably worth. And in that same vein, I think it's entirely possible that you can get Steven Stamkos on a hometown discount here. Let's just call it what it is. Steven Stamkos has never been paid what he has been worth. He has always been underpaid for that, and I think organizationally, the Lightning have done a great job of saying, if you take a little bit less, we're going to put good pieces around you. We're going to be competitive. We're going to win cups. It worked. It worked twice in a row. It almost worked for a third season in a row. I don't know where Steven Stamkos' head is right now, and if he's willing to take that discount again, which leads me into reasons that it might be time to walk away from Steven Stamkos. If I try to put myself in this professional hockey player's mindset, I have so many accolades. I have so many franchise records. I am one of the best players in NHL history, definitely the best in Tampa Bay Lightning history. I have won multiple cups. I think it's time to cash in. That makes sense to me. Granted, I don't know how much that's actually worth. There are rumors out there once again that Steven Stamkos could potentially be worth anywhere from $10 to $11.5 million, depending on the franchise, but the teams that are willing to shell out that much money are not going to be competitive. Let us also not forget that Steven Stamkos is 34 years old, meaning that whatever contract he ends up signing next, there's a very good probability that it will be his last. Do you want to commit that much money, however much it may be, to a player that's on the tail end of his career? That's a tough one to answer. On top of that, the Lightning are already strapped for cap space, and they are strapped for draft picks. And only one of those things are you going to recover if you let Steven Stamkos walk. You're going to get that $8.5 million back on your cap next year, but you're also not recovering anything by way of draft picks. So I don't know how much you're valuing your cap space at this point, but again, there's appeal there. I can't lie about it. What if a team that is more competitive than the Lightning are willing to pay Steven Stamkos a little bit less, but with the good probability of winning another cup? Again, I don't know where his values are at this point. I don't know what his priorities are, but I could see that being a thing as well. But the last and most prevalent thing that I continue to hear surrounding Steven Stamkos and contract negotiations and everything is that the window is indeed closed, and they are just trying desperately to hold on to whatever success of the past that they've had, and that's why they went and got Ryan McDonough, and that's why they're not going to give up on Kucherov and Hedman. But the only person that maybe sees that is Julien Brisebois, and he knows what this team is capable of or potentially incapable of, and he's ready to say goodbye. I, of course, have my feelings and my biases, and I want him to stay. I want them to try to remain competitive with this core, and Steven Stamkos at the center of that, but we're just going to have to see what happens. But now it's your turn. You tell me, what do you think is going to go on with Steven Stamkos? Who is he going to sign with? How much is he going to sign for? And what factors go into this decision making for you if you're an NHL GM? Make sure you leave those things down in the comment box below. I'm about to end this video and go record another one that, surprise, surprise, is also about the Lightning. We're going to talk about the salary cap situation. But until I see you again, remember, go Bolts, and please sign Steven Stamkos, please!